the G20 logo, if you look at the G20 logo, it actually puts Bharat first and then India, right? There it is, Bharat 2023 India.
But
Today,
as
we
you'll
had a
notice,
very,
Barkha, it says
yes,
Bharat in Hindi in the Devanagari script, and it says India
yes.
in the English language script. So we have no problem with that.
Right. But there was also the announcement of the Prime Minister leaving for Indonesia. And this actually captured, in a way, the dualism of what you're talking about, because it said the Prime Minister of Bharat, but he's gone to attend the ASEAN India Summit.
Exactly. Exactly. We did notice that. And it's part of
Yes.
the many, many contradictions that are going to arise if they persist in using Bharat while using the English language. It's unfortunate and unnecessary, but it's also, frankly, a master distraction. For the last 48 hours, we've hardly had any other issue dominating public attention. And the result of all of this is to put us in a position where we are not able to focus on the issues that really matter to the people of India.
But isn't that your choice? I kind of agree
Nope.
with you that it is a very, from their point of view, from the BJP's point of view, a clever and, as you call it, a master distraction. You don't have to fall for it if you think that's what it is.
No, look, I'm quite happy to never speak about this again. We can end this interview right now. But the problem is
No,
everybody
no,
in the
no,
country
no,
is
no, 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 no.
no,
Everybody
no,
exercise.
everybody
It's,
in the
yeah.
country is speaking about it. I mean, as you know, I tend to wander onto social media from time to time, and it's
Yes.
the only issue that people are agitated about. So for us as an opposition party or as opposition parties who relate to the public, for us not to have a view would be odd. And our view is quite simply that we don't need this problem. That honestly, the country has to look at larger and bigger questions.
So, Shashi, it's fair enough to say that, as you know, as the opposition leaders, you have to have a position on this issue. But what is that position? Because the opposition has argued that this is born from the fear of the India alliance, that this is in some ways to cast a kind of cloud or a shadow of doubt over the name India. But we have no proof yet that the word India is being effaced or erased or replaced.
Well, I guess that's what they want to keep us waiting to until the session of Parliament to see what sort of resolution they introduce or what sort of bill or amendment or whatever they try to bring in. I mean, the fact is they've got us speculating about this because don't forget when the opposition adopted the name India Alliance, there was a ferocious reaction from the government and the ruling party. There was astonishment when the Prime Minister, who is after all the author of names like Startup India, Digital India, Make in India, and so on, suddenly started saying India is associated with Indian Mujahideen and terms like that. And then you had the RSS chief, Mr. Bhagwat, saying stop using India and only speak of Bharat. And then a couple of days later, you have this invitation from the the president of the Republic of Bharat. So, you know, the logic seems, unfortunately, to be heading in one direction, that they want to move away from the use of the name India. Now, as I say, this is most unfortunate because there's great brand value around the world with the name India, but it's also something that would cause an extraordinary and unnecessary expense to change and to lose. And why should we, when we've actually given so much content and meaning to the word India and it's associated with so many special achievements and precious moments in our history? Why on earth would we want to abandon it? Why can't we continue what was working perfectly well, which is India in English and Bharat in Indian languages? It's not a problem.
Do you think that if the words are used interchangeably, which is what your friend and the Foreign Affairs Minister Jaishankar has argued today, that look, these are interchangeable words. So just because you mix up the English and the Hindi, it's no big deal. Would you agree with that? As long as both words remain, it doesn't really matter how they use. The President of Bharat, the Prime Minister of Bharat, should be fine. Do you think it's fine?
Well, look, I mean, it's not as big a deal if they do continue to use them interchangeably. But my frustration with all of this is we had a working system. In Hindi, you say Bharat Ki Rashtrapati. In English, you say the President of India or the Prime Minister of India. And that's also eliminates confusion in the minds of the rest of the world. If suddenly you're India sometimes and Bharat sometimes, you come across like one of these teenage adolescents who's having an identity crisis. It's silly.
Teenage adolescents that's having an identity crisis, whereas the BJP would argue that this is a moment which is reclaiming India's grand civilizational roots. Two
Yeah,
very
but
different
those
perspectives, right?
civilizational roots were never lost, Barkha. They didn't need to be reclaimed. They've been there from the start of the Constitution. I mean, they've been there in popular discourse. They've been there in every Indian language. They've been there in poetry, in the national anthem, as you rightly pointed out, in the verses of Subramanya Bharati in Tamil, in the verses of poets in every Indian language. Practically, what's lost? Nothing was lost. Nothing needed reclaiming.
So you think it's childish? You think it's an adolescent? It's behaving like a teenager who's trying to find the meaning of life at the age 30?
Yeah, at a certain point in life, you've got to be a secure person, and the same in the life of a nation. It reeks of insecurity to be obsessed with things like the names of cities and countries and places, of constantly having to reassert yourself. If you're a big, mature country, you can live with the past. You can live with the iniquities of the past, what went wrong, the history of it, because it's in the past. You are focused on the future. Rather than rename old cities, build new ones and give them the names you like. Create a future. I mean, that's what mature people and mature nations do.
I would agree with you, but your party compatriot Manishankar Iyer wants you to call Connaught Place Rajiv Chowk. It's not as if you guys haven't done this.
Look, I mean, I wasn't around and I wasn't in Indian politics when all that happened, though I must say, to the best of my knowledge, most people still speak of CP rather than RC. So, I mean, there are certain things, there's a certain comfort and familiarity with doing things the way you've always been used to doing, and the same applies to the use of the name India and to the names of many other places. So I just think it's, of course, in a generation, it'll change. Everyone's now more or less saying Chennai, whereas my generation would have said Madras for the longest time and Bombay for the longest time. I went to school in Bombay. But yes, that was a mischievous tweet I issued today, saying that if indeed the government is so concerned about the name India, we should call ourselves the Alliance for Betterment, Harmony and Responsible Advancement for Tomorrow, which should also be the Alliance for Bharat. What better?
Was this humorous, or are you half serious there? That let's just rename the India Alliance Bharat and then see what the government does.
It's just a joke, Barkha. I've been unleashing a few of these once in a while when my self-restraint collapses. I issued Chuck Day India with India in caps, and that's done rather well as well. I mean, the fact is that these. I mean, the issue is so silly; it deserves a certain amount of silly treatment. So it was meant to be a joke.
But you're joking. We had Akshay Kumar, no longer Canadian, actually changing the tagline of his movie. Yeah, he's no longer Canadian, and he also changed the tagline of his movie. His upcoming movie was called The Great Indian Rescue, and it's now called The Great Bharat Rescue.
Well, that's another mystery. What is the adjective of Bharat in English? I mean, we know Bharatiya in Hindi and so on, but what is it going to be in English? Is it going to be, are we Bharatans? Are we Bharatis? What are we in English? Because the fact is, it's not the Great Bharat Rescue. It was not the Great India Rescue. It was the Great Indian Rescue. So what is it going to be? Is it the Great Bharati Rescue? See how silly we already begin to sound? I mean, the entire thing is quite preposterous, Marka.
Let's talk a little bit.
In fact, there are some nasty things going around, by the way, saying that, are you all going to be bar rats? Because, Bharat, and no one is trying to say Bharati or Bharatiya or Bharatan or anything. So